Hi, my name is Caitlin Risa, and today I'm going to be talking about the plastic pollution crisis that we have going on in our oceans, a plastic planet. First, I want to begin by asking the class what are some anthropologic caused threats that our oceans face. Andy.
Some of the threats that our oceans face are climate change and pollution.
Good job. Right. Thank you for your input. Yes, so some of the anthropologic caused threats that our oceans face include things like over-exploitation and harvesting of commercial species, bycatch, dumping waste, pollution, invasive species, dredging, and climate change. The list goes on and on. So the main thing that I actually want to focus on during this entire presentation is combining hard scientific facts, statistics, and also evoking emotion, because I feel like the problem that we have as scientists is a lot of time we present with just facts, and that's very hard for the public to grasp and understand and care about. And once you evoke emotion out of somebody, it gives them a personal connection to the subject, and it makes them actually want to make a change. So I really like the way that Robert Swan put it. He said that the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that somebody else will save it. In this presentation, we are going to dive deeper into the plastic pollution crisis that our oceans are facing. To begin to understand the plastic pollution crisis that our oceans are facing, we have to first understand the cycle that plastic goes through. So the first thing that happens is humans produce and utilize the plastic. The plastic is then dumped into the oceans and other terrestrial environments. Plastic then bioaccumulates when animals eat them, and we then in turn eat those animals such as seafood and other products that contain plastic. So some of the characteristics of plastic, including things like its durability, cheapness, and weight, all allow for a wide range of products to be manufactured. This, combined with the buoyancy and long lifespan of plastic, allows for a wide dispersal of plastic debris across all terrestrial and ocean environments. This in turn results in hazardous conditions for marine life. There has been a rapid growth in plastic production in the past half century. A study done by Five Gyres Institute found that 5.25 trillion plastic particles are floating on the sea surface. Now, this is thought to be an underestimate because not only does plastic float on the surface of the sea, but it's also negatively buoyant, so it also sinks to the bottom of the sea. And none of that plastic was accounted for in this study. Due to plastic's buoyancy, negative buoyancy, and weight, plastic particles have been found all over the oceans, all over the globe, from frozen in Arctic ice, to remote islands, to the deep sea floor, to distant gyres, and even to the bodies of marine organisms. How does this plastic even enter the ocean? Due to the International Shipping Regulation MARPOL Annex 5, the dumping of waste into the ocean via ships was prohibited in 1990. But plastic still enters the ocean on a daily basis. This happens when land-based litter washes into rivers, which then empty into the ocean. It comes from hand and facial cleansers, cosmetics, air scrub blasters, and even plastic processing waste. Once plastic does enter the ocean, it will break down into microplastic particles due to sunlight, wave action, oxidation, and grazing by marine organisms. These microplastics can then break down even further into microplastic particles that are 130 micrometers in diameter. The path from plastic pollution to the ingestion of chemically exposed plastic particles is a long one. So plastics already contain chemicals, but once in the ocean, they are exposed and absorb more chemicals and metals. These plastic particles are then eaten by marine organisms, where they translocate into the tissues of the organisms. It then bioaccumulates throughout the food chain, and we as humans, being normally the end of the food chain, in turn then eat that plastic pollution. All trophic levels have been exposed to plastic debris. Some marine organisms even mistake plastic debris as food. For example, as you can see right here in this picture, plastic bags look very, very similar to jellyfish, which is one of sea turtles' main source of food. The ingestion of plastic can start all the way down at the bottom of the food chain, such as in planktonic organisms, and in turn then move all the way through the trophic levels. As marine organisms ingest this plastic and its absorbed chemicals, bioaccumulation and biomagnification can occur. Bioaccumulation is the buildup of toxic chemicals in an organism, while biomagnification is the increase in concentration of these toxic chemicals throughout the food chain. Some of the effects that can be had on an organism vary widely, but they do include things like immunotoxicological responses, altered gene expression, diminished feeding stimulus, lower steroid hormone levels, cause reproductive failure, and can even cause death. The extent and the specific effect that these plastic particles will have vary among marine organisms. The University of Victoria did a study that I actually found quite interesting and really enjoyed focusing in on. And what they did was they analyzed peer-reviewed literature that outlined the concentration of microplastic particles in commonly consumed items. What they did is they evaluated recommended intake levels, and then they used 15% of American caloric intake to average concentration of microplastic particles in these commonly consumed items. What they found was that in seafood, the average consumption of microplastic particles was 1.49 microplastic particles per gram, and that seafood also accounted for one of the 3 top categories that had the highest concentration of microplastic particles. I want to briefly highlight other products that we do consume microplastic particles through. So some of these other products that we possibly even eat on a daily basis include salt, honey, sugar, alcohol, and tap and bottled water. We even inhale plastic particles. It is believed that each week, on average, we consume about a credit card's worth of plastic. All of the calculations done in this study are thought to be underestimates because there's a lack of research in the concentration of plastic particles in our food. So what does this all mean for our own health? Microplastic particles can translocate into tissues and be taken up by our GI tract and lungs. The chemicals absorbed by plastics while in the ocean negatively affect the human endocrine system, lead to reproductive disorders, trigger localized immune responses, increase risk of diseases, alter hormone levels, and even cause death. Addressing the plastic pollution problem in our oceans is difficult to study due to lack of funding, questioning on if this problem even possesses a large enough threat to us, and the fact that additive effects is a difficult area of study. At this point in time, there seem to be more questions than answers, but researchers believe that they're asking the right questions. I am very invested in this topic because about a year and a half ago, I studied abroad on an island called South Caicos in Turks and Caicos. And their island is very underdeveloped, and they do have a lot of disadvantages of getting products onto the island and then in turn getting products off of the island, such as waste, but their island is littered with plastic. And it seems that if plastic production continues at the rate that it is throughout the globe, this will be all of our reality. The good news is that there's hope. Luckily, there are many companies that are proactively trying to combat the plastic pollution crisis. For example, 4Oceans has pulled 8 million pounds of plastic and other harmful substances out of the ocean since 2017. They also sell bracelets that pull 1 pound of plastic out of the ocean every time you buy one. Other companies, such as Final Straw and Brush with Bamboo, provide sustainable products that we use on a daily basis. Ocean Conservancy is a nonprofit organization that creates science-based solutions for a healthier ecosystem. So with more research and more companies taking the initiative to reduce plastic pollution, I believe that we can better the planet and ourselves. So the last thing I want to leave you with is a quote from the NRDC co-founder, Gus Speth. He said, "I used to think that the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought with 30 years of good science, we could address those problems. But I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with those, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that." As other marine organisms eat smaller organisms,